Hi everyone, I'm CK Jensen. I write books. And on occasion I also write short stories, which is the topic of this video. I was in a live stream at this point it has to be a couple weeks ago or maybe even a month ago. And we got to talking about short stories, and a lot of people were like, there's no resources for short stories. I don't know how to write short stories. I'm not in like a creative writing major or minor, and I can't find classes on short stories online. Because there's great novel writing resources online. There's a wealth of AuthorTube videos. But then it comes down to there's nothing for short stories. You can look at Brandon Sanderson's lectures on like promise, progress, payoff, but really that's more novel stuff. Like all his lectures are great, by the way. I did take his class twice at BYU. We are going to be talking a little bit about me because here are my credentials essentially. I did a creative writing minor at BYU, BYU is really well known for like their creative writing program. Like everyone who comes into it's just a really good program, especially the MFA. I haven't done the MFA, but I did the minor, and it was such a great experience. But in college, you have a class of like 20 writers or something, and it's really hard to have everyone write a novel in the semester and have everyone else read that novel. So a lot of my classes were focused on short stories, which is a time. I love reading short stories. I hate writing them most of the time, or at least I did until I figured out this trick, or well, all the tricks I'm going to unpack later in the video. But I hated writing short stories. I didn't understand them. My short stories always came out as close to like a first chapter of a novel, and I understand that that's a problem a lot of people face. We're going to go into how to write short stories, how to frame short stories so it doesn't turn into the first chapter of a novel. And then we're going to give you some examples of short stories that may or may not be free online. I don't know. You can find them in so many anthologies because these are, for the most part, all really well-known short stories by famous authors like Ernest Hemingway or Shirley Jackson. We're going to get right into it. I'm excited to talk about this. So first off, let's talk short story problems. A story problem is, well, the problem a story wants to address, right? In this novel, your story problem is going to be a much larger scale than that of a short story. So, for example, a novel-sized problem, if we take, I don't want to take a huge novel like Brandon Sanderson, who is fresh on my mind because he just released his new book. I haven't read it yet. I haven't read Wind and Truth yet. Don't come for me. But let's take All Hail the Queen of Hearts. The story problem in here is that Alice is the Queen of Hearts and she does not know how to rule. She technically has credentials because she's a queen from Through the Looking Glass, if you've read the original Alice in Wonderland series by Lewis Carroll. But she doesn't know how to rule, and so that is a big story problem. It has a lot of different facets. You really can dig into different aspects of it, and you get a full-size novel for this. This is 80,000 words or something. I don't remember my exact count. It's been too many years since I published that. Don't come for me for not knowing my exact novel word count. It's either I don't know, 70 or 80,000. That's good. A short story problem has to be solvable within the confines of a short story, which, if you're thinking words, 10,000 or less. You're probably looking more like 5,000, give or take 1,000 or 2,000. So for example, a short story that a lot of people know, they read it in high school, is The Most Dangerous Game by Richard Connell. And if you're not familiar with it, it is a man gets I haven't read it in a while, so this is all from memory. Don't come for me. It's going to be the theme of this video. That's the third time I've said this. But a man gets shipwrecked on an island, and he finds this mansion, and the guy in the mansion is super cordial. And then he's oh, we should play a game. And he's I'm going to hunt you for sport, which is terrifying. But you see how that's a much smaller story problem than the complexities of ruling a kingdom, even a wacky one such as Wonderland? Yeah. Okay, the word count on The Most Dangerous Game is about 8,000. So in the 8,000 words, you set up a story problem and you resolve it. And at the end of the short story, so spoilers, but also you should have read this in high school. I mean, I guess if you didn't, it wasn't part of your curriculum, you shouldn't have. But it's been published for many, many years. It's from, when is it from? 1924. So it's 100 years old now. I'm not worried about spoilers for a 100-year-old book, but the guy being hunted in the story ends the story killing the guy who's hunting him, and it says he had never slept in a better bed. But that's a question that can be answered in 8,000 words, okay? Likewise, The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. You know that there's a lottery coming up. You don't know what the lottery is, but within the confines of this short story, which is probably like 8 or 12 pages in the like tiny anthology I read it in, it was just a very small like physical anthology. Like it was like that big, 8 or 12 pages that size. I can like look up the lottery. Okay, the lottery is only like just under 4,000 words long, and everyone is like preparing for this lottery and they don't know who it is, and then you draw it and then you find out like they're going to get murdered. Which also, we are going to talk about the themes of short stories and death and weird, unsettling things in just a second. But story problems, they need to be able to be fully presented, explored to a point, and I will explain that point in a second, and then resolved or purposefully unresolved. Like, and the purposefully unresolved is going to be something like The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelis by Ursula K. Le Guin, which is a short story that says, here's this utopia, but the only reason there's a utopia is because there's this child locked in a basement that's utterly neglected and is in terrible conditions. You have to decide whether you're going to stay and know about this child and do nothing, or you are going to walk away from Omelis and we don't know what's out there. But if you cannot stand for the child being neglected, then you have to leave. Another great short story, by the way. I'm sorry for spoiling it, but again, these have been out for so long, I'm not worried about spoiling it. So that is purposefully left unresolved. You don't know what happens to the child because it's up to you. It's an ethical dilemma, right? That's kind of purposefully unresolved. You cannot leave it purposefully unresolved because you want to continue it into the next chapter. Like, I wrote a short story and it was really just the first chapter of a novel, and it was unresolved, but not like in a way that was intentional, like The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelis. Just keep that in mind. Hopefully that helps. The framing of a short story, I learned this in one of my classes, and I think it's from Anne Lamott, Bird by Bird, but I could not find where it says it. But if you picture a frame, a novel fits in a frame this big, a short story fits in a frame this big. And that goes back to story problems and like all that. But I thought that it could be another good way to visualize it, because it was about then when my teacher said that it's like it has to fit in this big of a frame instead of like that big of a frame. The thing started to make sense for me. Something I mentioned we were going to talk about is why short stories are often so unsettling. The short stories I've collected for this video are The Lottery by Shirley Jackson, which I've already explained, The Most Dangerous Game by Richard Connell, which I've already explained, The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelis, Ursula K. Le Guin, already explained. The ones I haven't mentioned yet are The Landlady by Roald Dahl, The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, and Hills Like White Elephants by Ernest Hemingway. Had to think about that last one for a sec, because I don't have it written down. I just have the titles written down. Like I said, I've looked several authors up through the course of this, if I didn't remember them off the top of my head. But The Lottery, The Most Dangerous Game, The Landlady, The Telltale Heart, and The Yellow Wallpaper all deal with like really unsettling themes like death, madness, hunting humans, taxidermying humans. If you haven't read The Landlady by Roald Dahl, that one lives rent-free in my head and I hate it. Like, it was so creepy. I read it in high school and it has haunted me. Like, I hate that. Plot of The Landlady is she like, a guy's like traveling and the guy meets like this landlady. He's going to stay with her, and he drinks this tea that's like smells like cinnamon and some like poison or something. Like smells like cinnamon to us. I think it's cinnamon, or maybe it's almonds. Whatever. He drinks this tea that smells strangely, something that the tea should not smell like, and it like kills him, and then she like taxidermies him. It's scary. I hate it. Oh my god, I don't like taxidermy. It creeps me out. Telltale Heart under the floorboards of the man he's killed, and it's like haunting him. The Yellow Wallpaper is a Victorian short story. Well, short story set in the Victorian era, and they're like, oh, let's take you to the seaside for you to like, get better. But the woman just like descends into madness, and she like sees things in the wallpaper, and it's very you can see that like these are unsettling, and I hate them. Hills Like White Elephants is like, this one I haven't gotten as much as the other short stories. I've read it several times. It's like, and it's about like a woman being pregnant and her lover's like leaving her or something like that. I don't remember the exact premise of the short story. Again, should have reread them all. Didn't. I'm just here vibing. Okay. Yeah, it's like set at a train. Hills Like White Elephants is set at a train station. There's like the American and his girlfriend are sitting at this train station, and the girl is like pregnant, and they're like kind of dancing around the question of it. Really interesting thing to analyze when you're talking about like dialogue and stuff like that. But anyways, they're very unsettling, a lot of them, or they're made to like kind of shake up the status quo, I think is maybe a better way to say that, to make you question things, which I think it should be the goal of all great literature, actually. So let's talk about how like they work as short stories. First of all, they have very small casts typically. They have small story problems. They have one core question, which is, again, going back to the story problems. They minimize the story down to its bare essentials, so you can tell it in less than 10,000 words and still be like moved by such a story. Like, short stories are cool. Oh, why should you write short stories? Why should you even try? Once you have like all these tips, like short story problems, framing, not too many characters, all that, you need to try short stories because it's a great way to explore something that you're not sure either could be a novel or to practice skills that are hard to practice on across a full novel. So like if you want to like do dialogue, Raymond Carver, What We Talk About When We Talk About Love, or like Hills Like White Elephants looks at like how you talk about something directly, like What We Talk About When We Talk About Love. They're like literally talking about like love and what it means to like love and be loved. Whereas Hills Like White Elephants, they're dancing around the problem. So you can explore different avenues and styles of like writing different things like dialogue or description without having to commit to a full-length novel. It's great. If you have a story question and you're not sure if it's long enough for a novel, you can write it as a short story first. And if you're feeling like there's too many things like you're leaving unanswered, then you're leaving too many things unanswered and you can write it as a novel. And if you feel like you write it as a short story and you think it's good, then leave it as a short story. I think it's a really good avenue to open up character development in like one arc. One of my short stories, which is not published anywhere right now, I'm tempted to find an anthology for it, but I haven't found the right one yet to submit to. And if you want to talk about submitting short stories, that's a whole other thing. I probably have a podcast episode on it I can link below. And I say probably because I know we've talked about it on the podcast, but I don't know which episode it's on because we have over 100 episodes now, which is really cool. I love my podcast and I love my podcast co-host. Shout out to Zach, DC Wynters. But like, if you want a video on like submitting short stories to like anthologies and like magazines, let me know in the comments. But I have the short story. It's tentatively called Vampire Ex-Boyfriend. I'm not like sold on it. And it's a character development story. So this guy is going to go see his ex-boyfriend who is a vampire. And as he's going up the elevator, you learn like incrementally more information with each floor the elevator like clicks up to. And you get to be like, they don't get along, they broke up, and then, oh, the vampire's been killing all the people the new guy goes on a date with. That's terrifying. And then and he's like basically hunting his vampire ex-boyfriend. So it's like a vampire hunter story, I guess. Which is wild because I've never read any vampire literature. Ever. I've never read Twilight. I don't even know any other vampire literature. Dracula. Haven't read Dracula yet. That one actually is on my list. But you get character development in that story is the point. And if you want to see that, maybe you can convince me to put it on my website. Drop a comment or email me. If you email me, I'll probably share it with you. My email can be found either right here at the bottom of the screen at ckjensenauthor@gmail.com. It's on my YouTube page. It's on my website. Like, you can reach me. I make it pretty easy. Or slide into my DMs. I love a good sliding into my DMs. It can be a really good avenue to explore like a short character arc. It can be to explore an idea. It can just be like a great way to write something unsettling. I have a friend who's writing like the coolest short story ever. I think it's like 12,000 words right now. That's not my story, so I'm not going to talk about it. But Miley, if you're out there, just know I'm thinking about you for this video. Cool. I think that's all I've got for you today. I really hope I can edit this into something that like makes sense, you know? I am so pleased that you came here and joined me for this how to write short stories and for all these short story recommendations that have haunted me since I read them either in middle or high school or college. Yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this. If you did enjoy it, please like, comment, and subscribe. In the comments, I want you to drop any or all of the following. Short story recommendations, questions on short stories. If you guys have enough questions, I will do a follow-up video to this on more short story stuff. Your favorite short stories, which I guess goes under short story recommendations, but whatever. Or any advice you have about writing short stories, because like I said, I didn't learn how to write short stories until like very recently, whereas I've been writing novels like since I was 16, and like I've been writing my whole life, but like serious writing at like 16, and I only started writing good short stories like a year ago or 2 years ago. So anyways, thank you for hanging out with me as I fumbled a little bit through this video. I really appreciate it. In the comments, I would love to see your support in the comments below, and your questions and anything else you may have for me. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. And again, I'm CK Jensen. Have a good day.